All right, we're live. So let's have a quick scrum then. Paul, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I've been working on that user confirmations, the device-based one.
Yeah.
Doing the tests for it. So I made a bit more progress, but I'm struggling with the active record acts as relationship between job seeker and user. So having a bit of trouble setting up a factory to create that user applicant without the confirmation token. It doesn't seem to recognize the user applicant. I've got a reference to it in the job seeker, but it comes up with unknown method. So I'm not sure. I guess I'm not doing it correctly, but I've been reading the documentation but haven't been able to really work it out, what it is that I need to do.
Okay, do you want to look at it right after Scrum?
Yeah, okay.
Not sure exactly how to do it myself, but we can poke around. Okay, cool. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm at least partially refreshed from my break. Thank you, Ross. What's going on today? I've just been doing prep for the Elixir mob that's coming up. We're going to carry on working through Phoenix. That's the Elixir version of Rails. I have spent a good chunk of this morning looking at this issue with the Internet Explorer, which is, we had this problem with the NHS thing. We did our 3 tests of the wikis, but various things didn't show up. I've got it running on, all 3 of them running on my own Windows computer here now on IE 11, and it all shows up. And investigation shows me that what's not showing up is icons. It's for some reason there's problem loading the icons on the NHS computers, and so I'm kind of I'm trying to upgrade to the exact version of IE that they have of IE 11 something whatever. I've emailed the XWiki folks to ask them about it. I've seen some discussion online about how there are some complicated header HTTPS interactions that can cause these icons to fail. It's interesting that we have, I think in one case it's Bootstrap, but there's different sets of icons across the 3 different wikis. So it suggests some sort of systemic problem. So I'm hoping to find out more. That's this morning. I'm kind of still pulling together materials for the NHS thing. There's lots of stuff going on. I have got an important meeting tomorrow, which is going to be with the NHS folks and the communication manager and some of the communications team. And I think that's going to be sort of key to working out this strategy about whether it's going to be Drupal or one of the wikis or what it is. So I've got a meeting later on to even like a prep phone meeting for talking about that meeting. And goodness me, it's meeting. Otherwise, I'm trying to put in funding applications for other sources of money. Got the Agile Ventures, like a little business plan up on the website. It's been shared in the marketing things. But annoyingly, this Thursday meeting is going to kind of conflict with me being in the marketing meeting and other bits and pieces. But I had a good Redeemify meeting yesterday with Matt and Alex, where they have got a server working on Heroku, and I've recommended them to make a video for Armando to show him how it's all working, and in the meantime they should come and join us and work on website 1, and hopefully they'll do some of that. Later on this afternoon I've got a meetup with Raphael to sort of catch up on the 18th voter stuff, and that's about the size of it, I would say.
All right, great. Sounds good. So for myself, on the Met Plus project, we had a client meeting this Monday, and I think we're in pretty good shape. So the client required one more feature to be added, which is the ability for an agency person, i.e. him, to create a job seeker account, as opposed to the job seeker alone being able to create the account. And there's a confirmation email that's sent, that's you click on a link to confirm your account, all that stuff. So we did put that in place. I've asked Hugh this morning to push that to production because I want to connect up with Chet. His name is Chet. And go through the process with him of him pushing the keys to create an account and him going to the email address that he sends it to click the link to confirm the account. So he understands all that machinery. And then presumably once he has that, he can start loading up job seekers and start playing with it for real, using real data. So we'll see how that goes.
And when you say production there, so there's now, separate from the staging one other server, there's a server that's dedicated for Chet to use, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's on I think given our uncertainty as to final target, we're using Pet's master on a Heroku. And we've got a Pet staging as well, of course. Whether that's the eventual production or we move it elsewhere, still to be determined.
Oh, sure. I don't know. The key thing is just to give something Chet where, as you said before, he can put real data in and not worry about it being, blown away by devs doing experiments and so on. Is the crucial step for the project. So that's great.
It is, and I mean that the ability for a job seeker to create their account, to register, and then get the confirmation link, etc. That is something we did really early in the project. And right now we're discovering that it just doesn't work for him, at least initially, which is really one of many pitfalls, when you wait forever to actually get it in the hands of your users. But anyway, that was the path we were kind of encouraged to follow by Chet saying he needs this, that, and the other before he can start using it. So anyway, lessons learned.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's a podcast I was listening to about the use of improv techniques in building teams and so on that I posted in random, and they actually there's a thing that they do apparently involving Lego where they have the customer come in and build something in Lego, taking requirements from the developers. So they actually reverse the roles, and they have them doing it in like 5-minute intervals, giving them feedback on the Lego that they built, which apparently is supposed to work wonders for helping the client understand about the feedback cycle effects and so on. But yeah.
Oh, that sounds like an awesome idea. I gotta look into that. That's I can see that right now. Really making the client understand that. Well, I thought I was building, and realizing that if I'd go 5 months doing this, we really would have been askew from what you guys actually wanted.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great idea. And on the SHF project, we had a client meeting on Monday. Yeah, and that went well. So we're in sprint 11 now for that, and moving along. So, and that's it for me. No blockers.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for that link. I'll take a look.
I'm not sure that that's necessarily the right one. I just did a search for agile Lego, but this looks like there's a book that's called Lego for Scrum, which is a way of it's like there's a whole thing here about how to they've got their own Slack community about how to use Lego to help people understand Scrum.
Yeah, that's interesting. And always hands-on work always makes a big difference and engages people's minds.
Indeed.
Neat. So, just curious, on the NHS project, the target was to create an initial prototype week before last. I guess we missed that because.
Well, I mean, we did our usability studies. We got our 3 things. It was, I think, XWiki was probably the front runner out of those 3, but all 3 of them suffer from this catastrophic icon loading problem. So it's kind of we've got to, like, if any of those were to be used, the icon problem has to be fixed, and maybe so that's there. That's a kind of like the blocker there. The other thing that I discovered on the same day was that the HLP website, they have, they've got Drupal 7, that there is kind of like a sort of resource pool to manage things, so that if we did one way to potentially circumvent the requirement to like pay for an XWiki or host some open source wiki version is that if we had a Drupal plugin for a wiki that would plug into the existing Drupal site, then the NHS people themselves would take on the technical maintenance of that.
Yeah, of course.
That's very appealing. Then there is all the complexities of, so the Drupal site supports multiple groups. I mean, it's 7. They're talking about an upgrade to 8. What the challenge there is that the NHS outsources to another company that provides that.
Oh, I see.
They're not accessible, though. We can't kind of like get it. It's not open source. I mean, it's Drupal, but that, whatever they've done to it is not is not open source. So we at least at the moment, I haven't found a way to get access to that thing or some version of it, so that we could even try a Drupal wiki plugin. The Drupal wiki plugins that we're looking at, none of them seem to be particularly high powered, and they're all a bit kind of ad hoc, as far as we can see. So it's kind of, we've sort of fallen back into this state of, trying to establish what's going to be the most sensible prototype to move forward with, in combination with what's the appropriate communication strategy. In that, for all of this to work, all the different, people, it has to be, has to fit in with how the people in the communications department feel about there being a wiki in the first place. So, it may be that I'm dangerously spinning our wheels when I should be just pushing forward with something, and so that we can tick the boxes that say we've delivered a thing. But I'm kind of exploring the different things and getting set up for this meeting to hopefully see if we can't find a sweet spot that will both tick the boxes and give them the outcomes they want. So if that makes sense.
Well, it does. So in terms of looking at Drupal, was it driven primarily or solely by the fact that we have this icon issue, or is there some kind of synergy between this wiki and other content they already have in Drupal that might be exploitable?
The Drupal thing is not driven so much by the icon thing as me looking at the costs about, if we went with XWiki, and presumably if we went with XWiki and we could get it done, we have to end up paying, I think, XWiki for it, and that ends up how much.
Mm-hmm. I thought it's open source though, but we can.
It's open source, I guess it's open source, right? So it's either host it ourselves or use a hosting provider.
Okay.
Either of those things will incur costs, and it's about this question of, like, if we do it ourselves and then we're on the hook for maintenance and keeping it running for the next 2 years, versus the particular attraction of the Drupal thing is, if we could stick in the Drupal thing, then the NHS people would be the ones maintaining it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, talking to the communications manager, she would prefer, she's like, she says it's a nightmare. People are building all of these separate things on different platforms that she doesn't know how to maintain. And 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, she says that they have to pay their developers to rewrite them in Drupal so that they can support them. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm kind of getting totally ahead of myself there.
No, that's a real key consideration what the communications manager is on. She's absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think at the very least, I'm hoping to get we've got this meeting set up for tomorrow to speak with the HFL staff and the communications manager, maybe several of her team, and kind of work out the strategy that's actually going to, take into account all these different things, and hopefully we'll come up with something. So I would like to have, if not the prototype, at least the strategy decided by the end of the week. That's a plan.
So there's definitely much bigger questions at play than just. But more tactical level, have you? Does XWiki? I know there's an organization that it's kind of the red hat for XWiki. They provide support. Right. Yeah, have you reached out to those guys about this icon issue?
I've emailed them. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I've emailed them. I mean, I've seen some discussion of it online. Yes. So that was what I did just prior to this meeting. So we'll see if we get some feedback from them on that. I mean, it's at this stage, it's difficult to know. Is that going to be just like a total blocker for the NHS computers, or is that going to be something that we can solve relatively simply? One of those, you just don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, thanks for the update. Interesting project.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit frustrating that I was sort of hoping that the marketing meeting tomorrow would allow me to be updating everybody a bit more on all of what's going on, but that's when the communications meeting has to go. But that's your update there, and I hope that's of at least passing interest to Paul. I know that you're busy focused on Met Plus. The idea, of course, with the joint scrums is that we'll get a bit of a feel of what's going on.
That's all very interesting, Sam. But, makes me feel tired though, just hearing all the things that you have to do.
I make a meal of it. This is my words. My resolution going forward is to be concise and summarize these things. So they sound very easy, and everybody wants to get involved. So.
Well, I mean, Paul's experience as we all are, and these projects on paper look nice and clean, and I just got to figure out the requirements, and map to solutions. And then you walk into a real organization with a real user
Right.
group, real established legacy systems, a real communication/IT group who has to worry about what's coming into their environment, et cetera. And it gets ugly and multidimensional really quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's my area of expertise.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I do.
Right.
So,
So
I model enterprises, process model, sort of, and then derive requirements that way, rather than rely on end users to come up with requirements.
Yes, indeed.
Because it's always problematic, as you said, as you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, and the bigger NHS is a huge organisation in the UK. It's the health service for 70 million people, and yes, the mind boggles. And so it's we're doing these designs. I mean, the biggest challenge in some ways is that I'm trying to do this design sprint where I'm speaking to all of the stakeholders. I don't know that I think there's this conflict in the NHS between wanting to adopt and embrace new approaches, which I'm a bit of a flavour of, versus the conservatism of just they're very worried about being attacked from externally about is this the right public money being wasted, these sorts of things, and so they're just sort of putting their toe in the water here, and maybe they would get bigger benefits from sort of an all-in approach where I had even greater access to people to sort of work together in a team. But I feel I'm sort of in this funny situation here where they're giving it a go. If I can somehow work out a good solution that they like, that that they feel good about the process, there might be this move forward to do more things. But we'll see. It's very complex.
Just curious, what's the role of IT in this? Who maintains all the other systems, or is that the communications managers?
That seems to be. It seems to be that the communications are both in charge of checking the content that goes out, public facing, and the medium through which it's delivered. And I think they are people who understand IT to an extent, but they have outsourced the actual hosting and development to preferred providers. So there's like external companies who then provide the hosting or the actual Drupal or whatever it happens to be.
Oh, I see. So the communications manager is critical to getting there on
yes.
the side of whatever strategy you're looking at.
And I think looking back at it, when they first mentioned the person, I had imagined it as purely just as an IT hosting sort of thing, and so I sort of thought, well, I sent some emails and that person turned out to be more receptive to phone calls and so on. It would have been great to have get that person involved much earlier, but better late than never. We'll do that on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right.
Cool. All right. Well, I better get on for this Elixir mob. You guys have got something to sort out on Met Plus?
Yeah, we're gonna
look
at that. So, all right.
Great stuff. Excellent. Nice one. All right. Good to catch up with you both. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye, Sam.
Bye, Sam.
Take care.
Cheers.
Okay. So.
All right. Let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Now, you see, in the factory that we set up,
Mm-hmm.
Where was it? We set up this user applicant, and in Job Seeker, we reference that instead of the user. Now, when I run that, it comes up with undefined method user applicant for Job Seeker.
Can we go back and look at that again?
Which one?
This one
Job
here.
Seeker. So I'll just go to the R spec. So I'm just using factory door create Job Seeker applicant, which references user applicant. Now I would have thought that refers to the factory user applicant.
I would have thought so too.
I guess is a method, and which is this one,
Yeah.
it's saying it's undefined. So I don't know what you make of that.
Can we go back and look at that error indication again? And it is complaining about the specific line.
Yeah, user applicant undefined.
But where, let's see, where is it? It's Factory Girl.
Active record. So it's, see, it's this acts as active record.
Yeah.
So that's a way of implementing polymorphic inheritance, I think it is, in a relational table.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So job seekers inherits all the attributes of user. It's basically a foreign key relationship in the database.
Can we go back to that job seeker reference again? The job seeker factory? Okay. So, so it looks like what we may want to do is, like the statement above it, we're using this keyword association. So user is an association with job seeker. So maybe we wanted to use user association, user applicants, comma, factory, user applicant. Or perhaps what we really want is the job seeker has an association with the user. But in that case, we want to use the factory user applicant rather than user. So perhaps statement 12 should be association colon user. So we're setting up the association for the user to job seeker. I'm just trying to follow the pattern of the statement above it.
Sorry, association
colon user comma. So, and then factory is user applicant. See if that works.
I see.
Just following the pattern above it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a factory. Yeah.
So there is an association with job seeker and user, and we're saying populate that association, but use this factory to create the associated object. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's what that says.
Let's try that.
All right.
I don't know if that'll work, but it's definitely confused by. It's treating it as if it's an attribute of the job seeker model, which it's not. It's an.
Yeah, I was trying to find something in the documentation around factory goal, but my reading didn't.
Yeah, there's so much there too. Sometimes it's hard to figure out which is pertinent to what you're trying to do.
Now, what's happening? Right. This is more promising. An SMTP to address is required to send a message. Send the message SMTP envelope to CC or BCC address. So I think we probably got past that issue that we had before.
Can you, so my screen is not being updated again. I just see the start of the test, but nothing beyond get confirmation token.
Okay. I'll just share and unshare.
Share again. Share and share again.
Yeah, that's right. Is that any better?
Okay, so what's it say? Send a message. An SMTP2 address. So we're missing an email address somewhere, huh?
Mm.
Can you scroll down a little bit? I can't see the bottom of that that error stack. That's a big one, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
A very deep stack, that one. confirmation. That's actually in the confirmations controller spec. Get process catch-word.
So you're in confirmations controller line 18. You're invoking the event model, say a job seeker has registered, which is that event JS register business. And what email is sent out upon JS register? I think what happens is
confirmation email.
Well, there's that, but what's happening there? It looks like in the middle where it says event RB40, where it's in create. See that line there? It says confirmations controller RB line 18.
18.
Kind of in the middle of what I'm looking. Yeah, right. Yeah, there you can see it's at that line.
It's line 18. Yeah, block and show.
And then line 18 within that. If we can go look at that.
Confirmations.
I think what's happening there is it's saying, oh, we've registered a job seeker. I'm going to create an event that notifies people of a new job seeker. So I think you're looking at the actual controller code, line 18, not the spec.
Oh,
yeah, so it's calling event
create JS register.
Yeah. So if
it looks like it's in the right place.
It's definitely says, okay, we've successfully created a job seeker. Yeah. And then if you want to look at under app models, we can look at the event model itself for the JS register event.
Model.
There's way too many things to filter through now.
Event.
Yep.
The JS register.
Yeah. So if you just maybe search on JS underscore REG, for instance, that'll get you there. Lowercase.
Well, in this file here.
It would be in that file. Yep. In this file.
JS
underscore REG. And then, yep. So we can just keep going until we find the method that handles that event. Yeah, so we want, there we go, that's the method. Yep, so we want to go down to that method. EBT JS register.
EBT JS register.
There it is.
This one.
Yeah. So it sends out a browser little push pop-up saying, hey, an event is registered. And I think what that does, it just goes out and anybody who's an agency person who's online gets this little pop-up. And then it looks like we're failing in the notify email. So there's that agent. Yeah, so there's a class for method for agency that grabs all the emails associated with all agency people. Maybe we can, yeah. So if we look at the agency model, we can see what that's doing.
Agency model.
Yep.
And, I can see people's emails, first agency, people plug email.
So it's just going to the database, finding all agency people and getting the email attribute for each of those people. So it's interesting. This code expects there at least to be one agency person
maybe
with an email address.
So I haven't seen any agency people. Is that completable?
That's where I'm ending up too. I was just thinking out loud though, the reason your test failed, there's no reason it should have failed because the code should be hardened enough that if there's no agency people, then it doesn't fail. It just doesn't send out email. But here, we're expecting at least one agency person, which in the real world makes sense. You can't have a job seeker without an agency. So I guess it's okay. But yeah, I suspect you're right that there are no agency people. So that statement at line 35 returns nil.
Yeah.
And then when it tries to send email to a nil address, it blows up on you.
All right. I'll follow that up then. But yeah, that's pushed me along a bit further. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Got me over that issue
Sorry?
with the access. You got me over that issue with the access, which is.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we got past the issue with
the access.
Oh, yeah.
Job seeker access user. How the factory is meant to be set up for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Generally, if you have an association, like if you go back to that factory, job seeker factory file, if you look at the first one, like job seeker, the first factory, on line 6, it just says user. Whereas above it, it says association address, factory address. Line 5 is a long way, is the long way to do that. We could have just put address in there. Line 6 is the shorthand. It's interesting we have both techniques in the same factory. User, what it does, it says, okay, this is either an attribute in the job seekers table called user, or failing that, it'll say, is this an actual association between a job seeker and a user model, in which case I'll use that association. And then I'll find the factory of the same name as the model, lowercase, and instantiate that related model as an association for job seeker. That's what's all going on there. Line 12 failed. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that, you don't have to put the factory name in when it's the same as the association.
Yep. So line 11.
You couldn't find the syntax to do that.
So, yeah. So thank God that line 11 was there. Somebody using the full written out. So if you can't default to the factory being the same as the model associated with the association that you want, then we have to do it long term here, long form. And now we told it this is an association. It's called user, but the factor we're going to instantiate against the associated object will be user applicant, not user, not the default user factor. Yeah, there's a lot of, there's enormous magic here, which is, once we get it right, it's incredibly powerful. When you actually think about what's going on behind the scenes and what we're leveraging here, it's just awesome. It really is. Standing on who said it,
stuff that you might have had to code manually otherwise. It's a very common pattern that's just been implemented for you, and you just have to use it. So it's great, I reckon.
It is.
As long as you understand it.
Well, that's the thing, and there's so much of that stuff, and sometimes it just works, and you get away with it, and then sometimes you think, well, there's a glitch here. Now I got to do a little bit, open up the hood a little bit, and look at the engine to a level I need to. So,
but it does prompt you to understand how devise works and how active record associations work and that sort of thing. So, and factories.
Yeah, all that stuff that we think we know because we read the text and we think, oh yeah, I get that. And we realize I didn't really understand it until I actually try to make it work. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. Thanks very much, Patrick.
All right. No problem, Paul.
So,
good perseverance. Learn. This is great. You learn. We're all learning. So this is what it's all about.
It's one of my defining characteristics.
Defining what?
Characteristics is perseverance.
Exactly. It's character building.
It is. Yeah. You get a lot of that in IT.
You do. You could think of it as hitting your head against a brick wall or character building. Let's go with character building this morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I forgot to mention. You should, if you're interested, It'd be a great blog posting for you to write up your experience with introducing Cucumber into a mainframe environment.
Well, I haven't done
And
that yet.
you're working on it though, so it'd be, yeah.
Well, I've had to put it aside because we're not into the testing phase yet. And,
Okay.
you know, we're just sort of going through a very lengthy mapping exercise. Because what we're doing is we're integrating a policy system with a claims module. It's called Claim Center. It's from a company called Guidewire. Very, very big, you know, in the insurance world. And we have to map the claims events, you know, that as they come through, it sort of produces or carries an XML payload with all these different elements that relate to the claim, and we have to map that to what the policy system is expecting, so we can update the claim on the policy system.
Oh, okay.
That drives all the renewals and, you know, that sort of thing. And so doing that is just mind-bogglingly detailed, just getting down to each little field and what it maps to. So I'm still away from really doing any testing as such.
I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, when we get there, what I aim to do is to use Cucumber to drive the claims system, which is web-based, and then produce these events, which will get updated in the policy system, and then we can check the outcome, you know, whether it produced the desired result.
I see. So your test harness will actually involve both modules talking to each other. You're not going to stub out like the claim system talking to the policy system. You're going to actually have them both in operation.
Yeah,
cool.
Because otherwise, you know, you can have a very wide variety of different claims and claim events and things like that. And to manually test it would be a real chore. You know, it'd be very, very hard to get good coverage.
Oh, I'd imagine.
So
and it's not repeatable as well, which is really will kill you in the long run.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I think it'd be a good way to go to use that sort of approach. But I'm not there yet. So
yeah, that's a perfect use case for Cucumber. That's great. Yeah. Well, it's too bad. Yeah, it is a laborious exercise, I can imagine, mapping excruciating detail. Well, it's too bad you didn't have a RESTful interface on both sides, but anyway.
Yeah, the people that I'm working with are in mostly in Melbourne.
Oh.
So they're on the other side of the country.
I see. Where are you? Are you on the eastern side of the country?
So, no, west.
You're on the west side. Oh, you're on the least populated. Southwest. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't most of the population on the east side?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good place for them.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a good place for them.
There you go. How many time zones are there in Australia?
3.
3. Okay. Yeah, it's a huge country.
Oh, in summer, well, it's more in the US, but in summer, some states have daylight saving and some don't, but there's even more time zones.
Oh, just to add to the fun, huh?
Yeah, so we don't here in Western Australia have daylight saving. So in summer there's a 3-hour time difference, and in winter there's a 2-hour. And it makes it awkward because, you know, if you say you're really starting to work at 9 and people will be just going to lunch over East.
Of course.
And they always seem to forget, and they schedule meetings at 12 because they find a nice empty slot in your calendar.
Which happens to
for,
be
for a meeting.
and then it's your lunch hour.
Lunchtime.
Yeah.
So,
Oh gosh.
but we use teleconferencing more and more, which does make it a lot better.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah, so that things are improving.
That's funny.
Mm.
Wow. Well, I guess there's an upside to having only 2 hours difference or 3 hours. It's not as bad as some of the times as we do. The downside is people kind of assume they're kind of on the same schedule because it's only a 2 or 3 hours difference, which means you can't run those chores at lunchtime you planned on doing because you got a meeting with those guys. So, yeah.
It was harder when I was working for Computer Science Corporation because we used to have a few meetings with some people in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where they are, it could be a 13-hour time difference.
Yes.
Made it
I can imagine. That, yeah. So I've done that kind of thing before. Get up at like 4:30 in the morning for a call, or the 7 o'clock call, whatever it might be. That's okay once in a while, but that gets wearing on you if you have to do it continuously. Yeah. Hmm. All right, then. Time zones are always a problem with these situations.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating to think about it. Though.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's come up with a real good solution for that, to be honest.
No.
Yeah.
But it to me, it brings it home that, here we are on this ball floating through space,
Mm-hmm.
We're on different sides of it. But, it makes it very real that it is just a big ball floating in space.
It does. It does. And the fact that we can actually work with each other, in real time, 13 hours apart, really also brings home the fact that the world really is flat, as Thomas Friedman,
well, it is.
Opined.
Yeah. Well, it's really shrunk it in terms of human contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
So it's both round and flat is where we end up with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
right.
I'm really curious how the Cucumber integration goes, introducing modern test technology and techniques, and hopefully process into. There's probably no more antiquated IT organization than banks and insurance companies and all of that. That's an interesting experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very worried about being disrupted now. Venerated leaders that come and talk to us from time to time. They think that self-driving cars will cause the collapse of car insurance as we know it. I mean, they could be right. Who knows when that'll happen?
Well, those are the big thoughts that justify their paychecks there, Paul. So we just have to assume that's the case, right? Yeah. I've been in too many corporate environments. I'm a little bit cynical, to be honest, but I've seen too many of those kind of people come up with the latest buzzword they read about that weekend, and all of a sudden they're got this great new strategy, whatever. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other discussion. We better avoid that. We can't have video being recorded for that one. Don't want to get in trouble. Okay, Paul, I'll let you go. I know it's late there.
Okay.
All right. Well,
thanks again, Patrick.
Oh, no problem. It was fun. It's always good. You always make me think about this stuff when you drag me in.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Talk to you later.
Evening.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye.